In the 1980s, one of the UK banks advertised itself as the listening bank. It's a phrase that came to mind when looking at the rapid changes that are happening in the world of payments. Against the background of rapid technological and commercial development, the banks seem to have stopped listening to what consumers and merchants want, and may be at risk of being left behind in what amounts to a revolution in the way payments are made. Working with payment system specialist eWise, Banking Technology assembled a group of market participants representing the banking industry, new payment providers, retailers and industry commentators to look at what is driving these changes and how the different needs of all the players can be realigned. Several key themes emerged, summarised in an article that can be downloaded from www.bankingtech.com/listening. In this video, some of the participants reflect on those themes, starting with one of the primary drivers, rapid changes in technology.
Well, there's a case in point today of two technologies that are transforming fundamentally the user experience, the customer experience, in how they could pay and transact with merchants and with banks, which is mobile technologies and contactless technologies. Both of which are converging into the mobile contactless space, whereby you can pay for anything with just a tap and go. Most of the industry, from the bank's perspective, is sitting on the fence with those technologies, just watching them happen. And part of that is because it's a very long decision-making cycle to roll out such technologies in a collaborative fashion. And that's what we were discussing in terms of how long that decision-making cycle is. The challenge is that there's already another wave of change coming through, which is connectivity of chips in everything, the internet of everything. And that's going to be the next wave of challenge, which the banks haven't even thought about yet. It's mainly going to be down to market forces and customer demand, in that we were talking about where's the compelling reason for change. And the compelling reason will come either from another industry changing the model, such as the mobile telecom industry, which has decision-making cycles to roll out of 12 to 16 weeks, versus the financial industry, which is more like 12 to 16 years in some cases, and maybe from the customer themselves, in that if there's a compelling offer from one bank and customers start to walk to that bank because they want the mobile NFC capability that bank offers, then the other banks will follow. But things like virtual currencies, Facebook credits and other things are also in the fray here. So to a large extent there's a massive change, and the real bottom line we came back to is at some point there has to be rationalisation, consolidation, and a real offer that everyone agrees on makes sense.
These changes are leading to a mushrooming of choices being put in front of retailers and consumers, which can be bewildering.
I think we certainly picked up a lot of the very important points from the first session around how you look at things from the customer perspective, at the retail view, and of course the view from the BBA was very, very interesting, particularly around looking at decision-making cycles in banks, and particularly how they're so much more slow to move and react than telcos, for example, because that is one of the bigger dynamics facing the payment industry at the moment, is the fact that innovation is happening, and the speed with which banks can react means that they are increasingly getting not quite left behind, but there's a risk that they will be cut out of the loop. And the other angle, I think, is around the customer experience element, and how you focus everything back on what the customer wants to achieve with payments, because that's the only way you'll get to a point where we can create payment products that are suitable for modern customer needs. One of the most interesting aspects was that, certainly from the BBA view, is that we have an infrastructure, and how do we leverage that better? Because at the moment the challenge seems to be how you get customers to use banking products more, particularly if you're looking at from the retailer perspective. Retailers obviously don't want to face huge payment costs. They can't pass those on to customers really. So how do you create a product that works for everybody? And when we have an infrastructure that exists, how do you facilitate that and allow customers to use the things that exist to do the things they want to do? The challenge and the pressure comes from other parties innovating around that and above that, trying to build in value propositions that add something to the payment process. And I think that's where a lot of the people in this room will have a challenge going forward, is if you're just doing a payment product and someone like Google is doing payments or vouchers related to payments, then bridging that gap is going to be an increasing challenge.
In other parts of the world, there has been a relatively easy adoption of new payment mechanisms. In the Netherlands, for instance, so-called OBEP, online banking e-payments, has made great strides in terms of customer adoption.
Someone in the room said there in the UK, most consumers mistrust their banks. which is not the case in the Netherlands, and which is part of the success of Ideal, I think, where people pay through their online banking system. So you, as a consumer, you need to trust your bank to do the payment through that channel. Penetration is above 90%, but it's used more than 50%. So almost every web shop in the Netherlands offers Ideal, but it's used around 55% of the time. But on the other hand, it's also a matter of culture. If people like to use their cards, if they are comfortable in using their cards, then but when it comes to the costs and the efficiency of payment methods, then I think OBEP schemes are preferable. But not in all countries costs are made that explicit as it is, for instance, in the Netherlands. There are lots of studies that show where the costs of payments are.
Such rapid adoption has already been seen outside the banking and payment world, particularly in transportation, such as the transport of London Oyster Card and Hong Kong's Octopus systems.
My belief is that it does not require significant investment to bring innovation to the market. It requires significant commitment. And I think it's particularly interesting from the Ideal perspective in the Netherlands, where Max has said that it didn't require significant investment, it just required the commitment of the banks to take a proposition to the market, which they've done successfully, and have got mass adoption within 3 or 4 years. The customer proposition, the customer experience is absolutely critical. It's not so much the technology, it is making use of the technology to get the right customer experience. And if you look at examples that are out there at the moment, if you get it right, mass adoption is rapid. You've got the Oyster Card, for example, that has had mass adoption on the underground here, probably less than a year. It's had well over several million cards in issue. If you look at smartphones, 2 years ago they didn't exist, whereas nowadays, they're ubiquitous. And if you look at other payments propositions such as Square, I think they've just announced that they've signed up 800,000 merchants in just about a year. So if you get the technology right, if you get the customer experience right using technology, mass adoption is rapid, which is why I do believe we will see some significant changes and new propositions in the market in the next year to 2 years. And whether it comes from banks or from non-banks is an open question, but I'm optimistic we'll see some significant new propositions out there.
This transition will be governed by a number of factors, not least of which is the adoption of payment mechanisms by vendors.
This is something I felt all the way along. This is not about a massive infrastructural change. This is about getting an agreement to do something. And even from the bank who was represented today, they were saying that, is this a job for the Payments Council? Well, actually, yes, it is, but also I don't know that we can afford to wait for all the industry to get together to come up with an answer to what is a burning issue. Consumers want to pay with different methods. The banks are missing out, and alternative parties are coming in and disintermediating them.
I think the sad thing is that the infrastructure is actually there now for some of this. It's just not being taken advantage of. Typically for us, there's a 2-year cycle for a lot of the activities at point of sale, where we're required to make changes to our point of sale system. But once you start to move on to the e-com side, then invariably developing the technology is a lot easier to do, implementing it, or alternatively a lot of retailers are now going through a payment services provider that provides the payment functionality, in which case it's really a question of flagging that demand or that requirement to the payment services provider, and hopefully if there's enough retailer interest in it, they'll look to develop the solution. We are approached on a regular basis, both in terms of new payment types and fraud prevention tools, and is trying to identify which ones are the key ones, which are likely to have any length to it rather than withering on the vine and here today, gone tomorrow. So that results, I suspect, in a lot of retailers just sitting on the fence and waiting to see how those payment types mature. I think there's a definite opportunity. Cards as a method of payment, particularly credit cards, is quite an expensive method of payment for us to accept, particularly retailers which have large ticket values such as we do. So any alternative which is likely to reduce that cost is of interest to us.
The story isn't over, of course. 2012 will see even more innovation and confusion as the payments revolution continues. In the meantime, to read the full report of this roundtable discussion, go to www.bankingtech.com/listening.